Subcommittee will come to order. Without objection, all members may have 5 days to submit statements, questions, and extraneous materials for the record, subject to the length limitation in the rules. Ranking Member Sherman is momentarily delayed. He will be here, and he will be recognized for his opening statement as soon as he arrives. I do want to thank everyone, especially the panelists, for waiting during the last series of votes. Appreciate your diligence, and also appreciate you being here. The crisis in Syria is a complicated mess. The poster in front here and once again on the screen outlines to some extent the situation. At the very top of the poster in yellow is the Kurdish intrusion into what is Syria. The red portions are where the opposition, the rebels, all the rebel groups, different groups in different areas, but the red is the opposition controlling certain areas of Syria. The green is controlled by Assad. The vast majority of the land that is in white, that is uninhabited areas of Syria. The butcher Assad has slaughtered countless innocent civilians and has used chemical weapons on his own people. Every day Syrians flee the country in thousands to escape the horror. Assad is supported by the Iranian regime and their Shia killers Hezbollah. Hezbollah is the main reason why Assad has remained in power. Without thousands of highly trained Hezbollah killers, it's possible that the regime would have been toppled by now. The IRGC and the Quds Force are actively propping up Assad to maintain Shia control of Syria and allow Iran to project its power across the region. Assad from Hezbollah and Assad's armed forces, there are irregular militias called Shabihus that are loyal death squads for the regime. On the other side, you have the Sunni fighters who range from so-called moderates to hardcore extremists with ties to Al-Qaeda. The worst of the lot is the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, ISIS, which is Al-Qaeda. ISIS works closely with Al-Qaeda in Iraq to create a safe haven from which they can conduct their reign of terror. ISIS numbers well into the thousands, and most of the foreign fighters who have come to Syria fight with ISIS. I'll repeat that. The foreign fighters that come are those that fight with ISIS. It isn't just the numbers that are important, it's what they are fighting for and how effective they are. ISIS is at the top of the pyramid. Then you have Jabhat al-Nusra, or JN, which is another jihadist group that shares Al-Qaeda's ideas and objectives. Neither of these groups, in my opinion, are moderates. Both fund their operations from Gulf country donations, kidnappings, protection rackets, muscling in on the oil trade, and other illegal means. Then there's another major Sunni group, is al-Sham, which many consider to be the strongest and most effective fighting force in several key cities. They may not be exactly Al-Qaeda, but they're not exactly good folks either. So the so-called moderates fight for the Supreme Military Command Council, or SMC. General Salam Idris is the leader of this group. If you recall, this is the same group that the State Department was saying that we should arm to topple Assad. These fighters were billed as moderates who would keep Al-Qaeda from taking over. But over the last several months, a large faction of the SMC has actually defected to the radical extremist. It's not even clear if the SMC actually has any control over its fighters on the ground. It's been said that these groups were never true secular nationalists, but Islamics from varying degrees. With so-called moderates fleeing into the arms of Al-Qaeda, it seems that conflict has become a war between radical Al-Qaeda-affiliated extremists and a brutal dictator. It's hard for me to see a clear winner and one that the United States can support. We don't want the Iranians to dominate in Syria with their now puppet Assad. We also don't want Al-Qaeda taking over the country and linking Syria with Al-Qaeda presence in Iraq. Left with this impossible choice, it's hard to see how further U.S. involvement can change the situation for the better. The regional implications of this conflict are important to understand, and that's why we are here today. It's a possibility that Assad could be removed and then the rebel forces commit civil war against each other to see who is going to control the country. That is yet to be determined. Massive refugee flows are destabilizing our allies in the region and threaten to overwhelm large portions of their countries. I was recently in Turkey and on the Syrian border with Turkey and visited a refugee camp of over 150,000 Syrians who had fled the war and now are in Turkey. Refugees are in numerous countries around the area. The fear of chemical weapons proliferation to terrorist groups is a possibility despite weapons inspectors trying to secure as many as they can. Radical foreign fighters who come to Syria to fight will eventually return home and may be motivated to launch attacks at the urging of al-Qaeda. We also know there are U.S. citizens who have traveled to Syria for jihad. We need to be on top of their travels and intentions so they don't come back and attack the United States. It is important for us to understand these groups that are active in Syria so we know not only who we are dealing with, but what they plan to do and achieve in their objectives. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses. I now turn over to my ranking member, Mr. Sherman from California, for 5 minutes for his opening statement.